Brennan, and today I'm going to talk to you about formative, interim, and summative assessments. And you'll see I've coined this presentation Understanding the Semantics because there's a lot of confusion on what dictates each one of these assessments, and it can sometimes be considered simply a play on words. So first we're going to talk about formative assessments. Formative assessments are something that you see used daily in a classroom, sometimes multiple times. They're a minute-by-minute assessment. They're attached directly to the target that you're trying to have your students reach within a particular standard or particular concept within a unit. They consist of many different types of strategies, and they can be very informal. I think the key piece that needs to be understood about formative assessments is these aren't typically used for a grade. When you attach a grade to an assessment, it becomes something else entirely. Formative, again, you're gauging student understanding and being able to adjust your teaching based on that student understanding with your formative assessments. And there's a few examples I want to share with you. There's the MFAS, or the Mathematics Formative Assessment System, that you can locate on CPOMs. And there's actually at least 4 different assessment tasks for each one of the Mathematics Florida standards. This one on the screen currently is representative of a 3rd grade fractions task where the student needs to break apart a number line and show where 5/8 would be located on said number line. Again, this isn't used as a grade for the student because it's one simple problem. It wouldn't be a pass-fail, so to speak. It's just to let you know if your instruction was effective. Do you need to go back? Do you need to work more independently with this student? There are ELA formative assessment tasks as well that have been developed. They're not on CPOMs though. You'd have to access these through your single sign-on account. These are terrific. They give you passages so you don't have to go digging for them, and there's tasks that are aligned directly with the target asked within that standard. You see these particularly done either whole class or students pair up and sometimes work in triads. And you'll notice that if you look at number 3 at the bottom right hand of the screen, it lets the teacher know what they need to be doing as the students are working through the task. And again, they're observing, they're asking questions, they're probing the students. And there are rubrics that are attached to these assessment tasks to help gauge where your students are as far as the target. Uncovering student ideas in science are some of my absolute favorites. These are from Paige Keeley and team. They can be accessed from NSTA Press, Amazon.com. I've seen a lot on Pinterest as well. I like these formative probes because with science there tends to be a lot of misconceptions going in, especially with difficult concepts such as the lunar cycle or Earth-Sun-Moon relations. And you can give these at the beginning of instruction to dig out those misconceptions out front. And then you can bring the assessment task back at the end of the lesson to see if the student's understanding has changed over time and you've reached where you need them to be. Multiple forms of formative assessment. Again, here we go. We have exit tickets, 3 things that I learned, 2 things I found interesting, and 1 thing I still have a question on. There are the smart response clickers. These systems are terrific because you can attach it directly to students, or you can use it as a whole class quick picture to check understanding. Do you need to go back and reteach? Nonverbal communication, the simple thumbs up or thumbs down. And another favorite is 4 corners. Again, something I usually love to do at the beginning of something such as a science concept. I give a multiple choice question. Students pick a corner of the room that they want to represent and correlate with their answer. At the beginning, you don't give them the answer. You can go right into your task or your unit of instruction and then bring that question back at the end and give students a chance to change their initial answer. Again, formative assessments, multiple ways to give them, multiple resources to utilize them and access them, and not typically used as a grade. Next, we have interim assessments. This is what a lot of us know as our our mid-years. And these types of assessments are representing individual and collective growth amongst the students within your school. They're also used as a projection instrument to see if whether that individual student, the classroom, or that whole school is on track to reach that proficiency goal related to the benchmarks. And again, this does drive instructional needs of students, as many of these interim assessments are utilized as progress monitoring tools. Some examples of interim assessments that you'll see in an elementary classroom would be STAR. STAR has an early literacy piece where you give an assessment at the fall, winter, and spring, again to gauge that growth of the student. Success Maker, Leon County utilizes this system to check proficiency to ensure that they are reaching the goal to be successful on the FSA. A lot of the items now have been written to align with the item types that you do find in FSA. So Success Maker isn't just a simple multiple choice assessment. You're going to see extended response as well. They're district created assessments. Here in Leon County, the only one they're currently utilizing is for science instruction in the intermediate grades. Again, it's used to check what the proficiency will be with the fifth graders when they take the SSA, but a lot of schools also utilize this piece to be part of the teacher evaluation system to gain that growth of student knowledge and science content through the course of the year. There's also the Interim Assessment Bank, also known as IBTP, that a lot of districts and sometimes schools utilize to create their own interim assessments. Summative assessment is the last one we're going to discuss, and I really like this quote. The key is to think of summative assessment as a means to gauge, at a particular point in time, student learning relative to content standards. The key with summative assessment is it becomes such when you attach a grade to it. This has now happened at the end of instruction. Now you're grading the student based on the content they should have retained. Examples can be seen here. End of unit tests, quizzes. This is one that sometimes people argue back and forth where this belongs, but if you're attaching a grade to a quiz, it now has become a summative assessment. You have your EOCs, performance tasks, portfolios. Grade 3 utilizes these portfolios as an alternative to the FSA to help gauge mastery of standards through the course of the year for students, research reports, and of course the state standardized tests. Some examples of summative assessments currently in place are the FSA for ELA and mathematics. We have the statewide science assessment, the SSA, formerly known as FCAT 2.0. Still the same assessment, just a new name. There we go with the semantics piece again. Whatever curriculum has been adopted within your district, whether it be Go Math, WonderWorks, those chapter and unit tests are summative assessments. And then projects that allow for multiple ways to express learning. Perhaps you have a group project where they present a PowerPoint or create a diorama and just other means of showing mastery of a standard. So coming back to the semantics, semantics is commonly used to refer to a trivial point or distinction that revolves around mere words rather than significant issues. To argue whether the medication killed the patient or contributed to her death is to argue over semantics. And I feel this really relates to these three types of assessments because the assessment itself doesn't necessarily dictate whether it is formative, interim, or summative. It's the way that you utilize the data. So how the data is utilized, that's what attaches it to whether it is a formative, interim, or summative assessment. So for example, AR can be used as a summative assessment when a student takes that single test. I've read the book, and this is what I know about it. Or it can be used as an interim assessment if a teacher wants to utilize that diagnostic report to see the growth over time. FSA is a summative assessment, but it can be used as a formative tool when planning going on to the next school year. And a common formative assessment, such as a small summary of content, may sometimes be used as a summative assessment when it becomes graded. I hope this has given some clarity to these 3 assessments, and thank you. Have a good one.